Okay, back over to Ian Sharp for the answers to questions 11 to 20.
So this rock isn't a fossil, but it's actually showing us a fossilised earthquake, really. So we can see all the layers in grey. That's the original rock here. It's a limestone. This is actually from the Cambrian of Canada, up in the Rocky Mountains. And the white areas is quartz, essentially. And what's happened here is we fossilised an earthquake. So as a fault has moved, we've fractured the rock. Fluids have moved along under pressure, and they've cemented all the cracks in between the different layers. And it's called a jigsaw breccia because you can fit it all back together, a bit like a jigsaw. That's a very nice example. So that's a good example of a fossil earthquake. So if you see rocks like that, breccias, jigsaw breccias, it often means there's been tectonic movements, faulting and folding and earthquakes and these sort of things. Okay. So here we are in the Silurian, and again I've put these up on the table so we can see them a bit better. So the four fossils on the right hand side, all these guys over here, they're all seashells. They're something called brachiopods, and this little guy here, that's actually a little coral. You can see it looks like a little horn, little solitary coral. So these type of rocks you would find in the West Midlands, in the Welsh borderlands, Dudley and Shropshire and those sort of areas. And the one at the end here, this guy, this is one that's thought to look like a Roman lamp. So if you Google Roman lamp, you can see that this end would be where the flame came out of. It just looks like it. It's not a Roman lamp, of course. It's a seashell, fossilised from the Silurian. Still in the Silurian. These examples come from an island just south of Oslo, out in the Oslo fjord in Norway. Let's zoom in on this one, and we can see it's made of all these little sort of branching sticks in there. You can see they're quite small, these guys, and then there's something a bit bigger here. This is a coral. Okay, so this is a limestone, and it's absolutely full of life. You can see on the one over here, you can see it's just full of all of these corals and things that are called the stick things that look like twigs. They're Bryozoa. You can see these really nice corals on the side there, and some nice corals underneath as well. So this would be a really nice warm tropical sea, a bit like being in the Caribbean, which is quite different to what Oslo is present day. Last one I think from the Silurian. So this example is also a coral. You can see these sort of vertical fabrics, they're branching, so it's branching just there, and you can see all these sort of circular features at the top coming up towards the light, the sunlight, and there you can see they're branching on this side. And this one we've actually cut the bottom with a diamond saw, and you get a look inside the corals. That's a good way of looking at what the fossils are in a bit more detail. So that one's from the Silurian of Iran in the Middle East. There he is. So if you remember on the toilet roll of time, we talked about the closing of an ocean called the Iapetus Ocean, which is basically when England, it's called Avalonia, sort of smashed into Scotland, Caledonia, and actually also smashed into Greenland and North America. As a big mountain chain was formed at the end of the Silurian, a bit like the Himalayas. And when that happened, all of the rocks got folded. So let's have a look at this guy. So here you can see all of the layers have been squeezed and stretched and folded over there. So they would have originally been flat, and they've been pushed and squeezed over. So if you took a flat bit of paper, A4 bit of paper, and pushed it from one side to the other, you'd produce something that looks very similar, these folds. That's a nice little pebble example. And you can see another one here. See the layers have been folded up and over that side. That's quartzite. And then the other one here you can see very nicely, it's been folded and squeezed over. And I think our dog has taken the quartz vein because it's not here. So I'll have to go and see if he's destroying his teeth on that. So these rocks are from the Devonian period, which is sort of 400 to 315 something million years. And these rocks come again from Orkney and from Caithness up in the far northeast of Scotland. And they're actually fossil fish, and these lived in an ancient lake called Lake Orcady. So let's zoom in on this guy. So you can see quite nicely the tail coming up, and this is the head of the fish through here. It's been squashed flat. And the other guy here, we can see something similar. You can see the curved spine of the fish, and there's its head through there. It's just been squashed flat. And there's the other one. There's one over here, exactly the same. You can see head's disappeared off the end of this. You can see this curved shape. So all of these curved shapes are, it's basically when the body is stiffening after it's died, it's rigor mortis. They start to stiffen and the spine sort of curls like that. There's a nice one there. I come over to these guys, and you can actually see all of the individual fish scales. You see these diamond patterns? One there, and another one there. So they're actually fossilised fish scales from the Devonian. Okay. So these examples come from the Devonian up in Scotland, actually. Let's look at these two first. So these are boulders of granite. So granite is an igneous rock that formed and cooled underground. So where a magma chamber cooled and fossilised, these are the sort of rocks that you get. This is a nice sort of pink speckled granite. You can see the crystals really nice, feldspar and quartz and biotite. And here you can see it's a bit finer grained, an inclusion of another rock inside here. So that's a granite as well. When those guys get to the surface, you get these things, lava flows. So this is a lava flow. It's a boulder from a beach on the east coast of Scotland, but you can see very nicely these round holes. They're basically gas bubbles. They're called vesicles. This is actually a fossilised lava, and you can find them quite commonly on the coast from Aberdeen down towards Dundee. A very common rock type to see. Okay, I've put these up on the table as well so we can see them better. So these are from the Devonian, and if you're familiar with ammonites from the Jurassic, they look very similar, and actually they lived very similar in open oceans to the ammonites, sort of floating around. These ones come from the southwest of France and Morocco, and they're preserved in iron and manganese, which is why they're so well preserved and quite hard. These aren't that common to find in the UK. We can find them in parts of Derbyshire, we can find them near Torquay and parts of Yorkshire, but they're normally pretty squashed and shelled. And this guy is the orthicone again. We saw one of those before. That was back in the Ordovician. So it's a bit like a modern squid. It's the bone of something that was like a squid swimming around in the ocean. Okay, last rock from the Devonian. Remember, this was a really big, heavy slab, foot for scale. And you can see it's full of these cracks. Okay, and this is from the same lake actually as we saw the fish. And these are basically mud cracks from where the lake has completely dried up, and the mud has also dried up and shrunk, and we get these mud cracks. So exactly the same as you would see in any modern lake setting where the water dries out and the mud all cracks up like that. And these are mined or were quarried extensively up in northern Scotland to be used as paving slabs. So if you walk down some of the streets in some of the cities in the UK, you might see rocks that look like this, particularly in Edinburgh. I remember seeing them in Edinburgh and Glasgow. Okay, so they were mined in Victorian, quarried in Victorian times as paving slabs. Okay, we've now come out of the Devonian and into the Carboniferous, which in large parts of the UK was really nice time to be around. I guess it was warm, shallow seas, lots of coral reefs. So these sort of rocks you'd find in Bristol, Cheddar Gorge, in Derbyshire, large parts of the Yorkshire Dales, up in Northumberland, and in parts of the Midland Valley in Scotland. And here we see a range of fossils from the lower part of the Carboniferous, mostly shells, brachiopods. These guys on this side, they're all big brachiopods. Through here, different types. There's the one that looks a bit like the Roman lamp. And on the right side here, we can see this one that looks a bit like a net. That's this fossil called Bryozoa. Again, it looks a bit like a coral. And then a little bit, probably the last ones you find in the UK, this is the tail end of a trilobite. So these all come actually from, a lot of them come from Derbyshire in Castleton. And at the reef in Castleton you find these tiny bits of trilobite. You can see this one's just about to break again by the looks of it actually. So I may need to stick some glue on that one if I want to keep it. I'll put it down there. So typical lower Carboniferous.
Now watch out for his next questions 21 to 30. See you soon.